Episode 27 had given Bleach fans a glimpse into the evolving powers of Uryu Ishida. Some major hints were dropped by Kubo and the anime staff about how Uryu's powers are growing, especially with his eyes and the mysterious Quincy veins that were appearing on his body. When Yhwach activates the Almighty, Uryu recovers during his battle against Senjumaru, but with electrified red irises, along with Quincy veins around his eyes, and he even had strange markings on the back of his hand which look like a hand imprint, or even some have speculated that it could be linked to Mimihagi. Episode 27 left us with a lot of questions about Uryu's abilities, with the episode dropping hints of a deeper connection to Yhwach and the Soul King, and how Uryu's evolving powers are linked to all of this. In this video, we'll go over all of the theories about Uryu's mysterious powers which are being hinted. This may well be a redesign of his Shrift the Antithesis, or it may be something entirely different which Kubo is hinting at us. I'll also be talking about Uryu's connection to Mimihagi and how this links back to the larger lore of the Quincy, because there are so many hidden clues and pieces of foreshadowing in episode 27 which are really easy to miss. Now be sure to stick around until the very end of this video as I'll try my best to unravel the mystery behind Uryu's powers, as well as the significance of his red eyes and the hand markings, which very well could be hinting at something huge which is yet to come. So without further delay, let's dive into the topic of the video. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Holo Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. So let's go over what happens to Uryu in episode 27. So he appears to be caught by Senjumaru, who then uses her needle to pierce the back of Uryu's neck as a blood drop falls, and we cut to Yhwach versus Ichibe. What is interesting is that Uryu does say to her that for some reason he needs to fight. Now this hints at his larger motivations, and some have speculated that Senjumaru may have let Uryu win after he reveals his motives to her, but this doesn't appear to be the case from how events unfold in the anime. After the blood drop falls, we see this shining bright light from Uryu's body, and meanwhile Yhwach explains to Ichibe, who has just used his magnificent death mausoleum, that his ability the Almighty allows him to see what will happen in the future. This is a power which is beyond the realm of understanding, and it cannot be dealt with by simple countermeasures. Everything that Yhwach has seen with the Almighty is powerless before him. He has already seen Ichibe use the magnificent death mausoleum, and his power the Almighty has allowed him to alter the future so that Ichibe's power is ineffective in the present. Now this is where the interesting stuff happens. After Yhwach defeats Ichibe, we then cut to Uryu, and it seems like he is activating his Vollständig, or his Quincy holy form. Now there's a glowing aura where his heart is, along with these Quincy markings on his clothing. The shot then zooms out, and it's evident that Uryu is struggling to control this newfound power that he's received, and it looks like wings are trying to form on Uryu's back, but they are way too large and they cover the entire area behind him. We see these particle and electrical effects going haywire. And yes, Uryu's heart is still glowing in this moment, with Senjumaru commenting, "So this is the power of the Sternritter." We then get a close-up shot of Uryu's eyes with the Quincy markings around them, along with these notable electrical sparks. Uryu then descends as his wings begin to take shape. Senjumaru says, is he mad to think that he could dodge her Bankai? Uryu retorts by saying that it's her who is talking nonsense, as he reveals that her own Bankai has caught her. Now this is in fact Uryu utilizing his Shrift ability. Now we know that he used his Shrift earlier in some anime exclusive scenes in order to help Yhwach escape from Kiryo's cage of life. While that was a subtle reveal of his Shrift abilities, this is more of a direct one where he uses it against an opponent. So while Senjumaru is trapped, Uryu draws his bow and fires an arrow straight through Senjumaru, defeating her. So now the real interesting stuff happens as Uryu falls to his knees because of the overwhelming power that he wields. His wings are going haywire, they're expanding out, the electrical effects are back. Now fascinatingly, we get a close-up shot of Uryu's face and we see those irises and they're red again, and there's Quincy markings around his eyes and we see these electrical effects. Uryu seems to be genuinely struggling here, and as quickly as those Quincy wings appeared, they dissipate, with Uryu standing with his fist clenched, and on the back of his fist we see some strange Quincy markings. So to break down what these markings are, so there are 2 points that emerge up into a circle, and there are 5 points that extend out of the circle. So the marking on the left looks like a thumb, with the 4 other markings looking like fingers, and there's a dot in the middle of the circle. There is undoubtedly a connection between these markings and Mimihagi. These marks appear on the back of Uryu's hand only momentarily before fading away, so the scene pretty much wraps up with Senjumaru's Bankai disappearing and Hashward and the Schutzstaffel being freed, standing behind Uryu. There is a lot of symbolic imagery within Bleach, and we know that Kubo loves to utilize it within his work. One notable one in this episode is after Uryu is stabbed with Senjumaru's needle, a drop of blood falls, and this is reminiscent of the drop of blood that Uryu drinks in episode 14 of the anime, where Uryu drinks Yuhabak's blood, which allows Yuha to share a part of his soul with Uryu, thus granting Uryu newfound Shrift abilities. So everything comes full circle in episode 27 when those very droplets of blood that Uryu drank now awaken his newfound powers, which assist him in breaking free from Senjumaru's Bankai and defeating her. It's the activation of the Almighty which really kickstarts everything, as we see Uryu fall from the fabric that he was trapped within, and this glowing aura appears over his heart. It's glowing as there's a circle with a dot in the middle and this Quincy reishi emanating from it. When he lands in front of Senjumaru, the anime staff take the time to add a small minor detail to Uryu, as we see his eyes glowing here for the very first time with those blue Quincy markings. Senjumaru asks, "Did you gain power when the king had awoken?" We are then shown a close-up shot of Uryu's face and his eyes begin to turn red when those Quincy markings appear around them. We mysteriously cut to Hashwall too, who appears to react to Uryu's powers. He doesn't say anything, but it's obvious that he can sense what is happening. It may very well be that Yuhabak has bestowed a fraction of the power of the Almighty to Uryu, hence warranting a reaction from Hashward. Uryu's power is pretty uncontrollable here, and it's hard to really call it a holy form because he doesn't have the iconic halo over his head, and the wings barely form on his back, because there is so much uncontrollable power that it's pouring out and enlarging the shape of those wings. This newfound power is something that Uryu is going to have to control and refine, and we're definitely going to see that happen, and these anime only editions feel absolutely great. You can really get a sense of Uryu's character being saved in the anime. There is so much build up and setup involving his character, I just cannot wait for the payoff in Core 4. The main theories around Uryu have been that his eyes appeared to be similar to Yuhabak's when he had used the Almighty, and in terms of the Blutvine markings on Uryu's hand, they did appear to resemble Mimihagi. There is most certainly a link between Uryu and the Soul King, with Uryu's heart glowing, those red eyes appearing, and his right hand having those Mimihagi markings, which is why I now bring up this next point. In the ending, we see a shot of Ukitake with his back turned to us and this light from behind him, and this entire shot is drowning in this bright blue color, which is reminiscent of Quincy reishi. Now, if you pay close attention to Ukitake's captain coat, which is draped over the lower half of his body, you see what appears to be Blutvine markings, and the light is moving in a upward direction. Even the droplets around him are not moving downward, they are actually raising up from the ground and going up. Then you have the iconic black reiatsu of Mimihagi around Ukitake. People have started to speculate that the right hand of the Soul King Mimihagi may also be a Quincy. This theory primarily stems from the fact that Pernaida, the left hand of the Soul King, which governs over progress, it reveals to us in chapter 640 that it is a Quincy, with Pernaida being very proud prideful of the fact that it belongs to the Quincy race. Mimihagi is the counterpart of Pernida and it governs over stillness. Unlike Pernida, Mimihagi doesn't have a physical body, as it instead appears as a form of black reishi, and from everything that we know from the manga, for the most part we've considered it to be a god or a deity, but from these hints that are being dropped within episode 27, Mimihagi may well be a Quincy, but it may not be a pure Quincy like Pernida. Mimihagi may well be a half Quincy, and it's for this reason that Mimihagi may be manifesting within Uryu, as he is also a half-blooded Quincy, unlike all of the other Stenritters and Schutzstaffel who pretty much are pure-blooded Quincy who were granted Schrift powers by Yhwach. Even Pernida follows under Yhwach, so you could speculate that the right hand of the Soul King, Mimihagi, is linked to impure Quincy, while the left hand evidently has a connection to pure-blooded Quincy. Now you can go even further and talk about the still silver arrowhead. Now when Yhwach is hit by it, we see these Quincy markings which branch out like the roots of a tree from his chest, and these appear to be similar to the markings that appear on Ukitake's clothing. This further emphasizes that the power of the still silver arrowhead may be linked back to Mimihagi, as the silver of stillness originates from the heart of a impure Quincy who was killed by Ashvalan. It's important for us to recognize the fact that as an impure Quincy, Uryu was the only one who had survived Ashvalan, and from what we know, he's the only impure Quincy who is being granted a Schrift by Yhwach. Hence why all of these powers are manifesting very differently with him. He appears to have these red irises, he has markings like Mimihagi on the back of his right hand, and his powers are going out of control. He doesn't have a halo above his head, and his wings are not taking the proper shape of a Quincy holy form that we see with the other Stenritters. When Uryu is freed from Senjumaru's Bankai, that circle around his chest with a dot in the middle also resembles Mimihagi, and it's similar to those markings that appear on the back of his hand. If you were to go even further with this entire theory, when you go and look at Uryu's Let's Steal form, it's Uryu's right hand that merges with his Quincy bow, and the wing appears on the right side of his body. And additionally, there is some imagery from the new opening which also links at Mimihagi having a connection to Quincy's. There is a shot of Yhwach's sword and it looks like a hand is grabbing it, and you can assume that it's Ichigo's hand here with those blue Quincy markings appearing, and this of course represents Yhwach taking control of the blood within Ichigo's body, compelling him to kill the Soul King. But this shot here then transitions into Mimihagi, and for a brief moment of time we see Mimihagi overlaid with those Quincy markings, and it resembles those markings on the back of Uryu's hand. There is so much symbolic imagery, foreshadowing and hinting that the anime staff and Kubo are doing, and when you begin to piece together and theorize what on earth is going on, it blows your mind. Just how many layers to the story of Bleach are there? Right now, all we have to go on is theories and speculation, but I do want to thank Twitter user Neil for Cosplay, or as she's also known as Ari, who has come up with a lot of these theories. Her posts on Twitter made it plausible that actually Mimihagi may well be a Quincy. There's a link to Ukitake. The impure Quincy are represented by Mimihagi. The markings from the Silver of Stillness are reminiscent to the markings on Ukitake's captain coat in the new ending. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to building upon these theories and speculating further as we get more episodes of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. But for now, we've reached the point of the video where I do want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What do you guys think about all of these incredible hints and teasers that Kubo and the anime staff are dropping? There is definitely a larger story and something unfolding behind the scenes which we are not being told, and you can guarantee that we're going to be continuing to speculate and theorize about it in these videos, so please do stick around, continue the discussion in the comments, let me know all of your thoughts about Uryu's new powers and the link to Mimihagi, and lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach Explained video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.